Welcome back to another tutorial, guys. In this tutorial I'm going to be sharing how I made the side gathers of this dress. That would be the major focus of this tutorial. If you're new here, my name is Ayomide, and on this channel you would find sewing tutorials and pattern drafting tutorials. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for always coming back. Thank you for the likes and for the comments. So now let us jump into today's tutorial. For this project, I have my basic skirt pattern right here. The length of this pattern is about 32 inches long, so this dress is going to be a 3/4 dress sort of. I have my waistline there. This right here is my hip line, and the measurement I have on my hip line is the exact measurement I have on the full length line. So because of the nature of the style, I did not do any shaping around the hem of the dress. So now let's move on to modifying this pattern. The first thing I'll do is to mark some measurements beneath the waistline, and I'm marking 4 inches beneath the waistline. Next, I'm going to be marking about 5 inches inward from the center front on the hip line, and on the full length line I'll be marking about 4 inches inward on the full length line. Next, I'll try and connect that 4 inch to meet up with the 5 inch I have on the hip line, and also create a curve that will meet the 4 inch beneath the waistline. So I'll just try to draw this slanted line. The points don't really have to match up. Once I've drawn my slanted line, then I'll use my hand to create my curve, and this is what I have. So I'm going to be using my pattern master to smoothing the curve out. This is what my pattern is looking like so far. I'll be taking out this part, and this part would form the gathered area. I'll label my pattern as the center front. I'll keep that aside, and then we'll be working on this part that we cut out. So I'm going to be measuring the hem, and that would form the basis of how I want to separate my pattern. I have about 6.5 inch, so I'll just go over and mark 1.5 inch marks away. Once I'm done with that, I will be ruling a straight line upwards. After ruling all the lines, I would be labeling them. So I will be having 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now let us cut this on the fabric. To cut on the fabric, I will need to split up all the patterns. So I have already cut out 4. Now I am proceeding to cut out the other ones. Also bear in mind that 4 is the side front, okay? After cutting all out, it is now time to place on the fabric. Remember I said 4 is the side front. I'll be placing it against the folded edge of my fabric. I have folded my fabric into 2, so you will need to cut your side on fold so that you don't have any joining by the side. So here I'm just going over to readjust my fabric because I'm working with a limited amount of fabric, and I'm placing figure 4 against the folded edge. I'm also placing figure 3 some inches apart, and figure 1 some inches apart. So because I'm working with a limited amount of fabric, I'm just going over to ensure that my other fabric would be enough to cut the remaining part of this dress, and I realized I need to move my pattern upwards. So I'm just going over to unpin, and I would be shifting my pattern some 0.5 inch upward because that's what I needed, and I will be placing this back on the fabric. After sorting out the fabric I'll be using, I'm going over to draw a line where all of my pattern will be starting from, and I'm going to be marking some 3.5 inches away. You can do as much as 5 inches depending on how full you want this to be and how much of fabric that you have. So the panels will be about 3.5 inches apart. Figure 3 and 4 are about 3.5 inches apart. Figure 2 and 3 would also be within that range of 3.5 inch. You can do as much as you want, like I said earlier. I'll also repeat likewise for figure 1 and 2. Once I'm done pinning, I'm going to be creating a curve at the top part. Remember, our pattern is not straight. I didn't know my camera was out of focus at this point, but you'll be seeing this clearly later on. So I'll create a curve that will end at the hem, and I'll be cutting this out. After cutting out, I will be placing my fabric unfold again into 2, and I'll be cutting another one because you need 2 of this for this particular style. After cutting out, I will be notching the midpoint of the fold. I'll be removing my pins, and this is what my fabric is looking like. So guys, this is the shape of my fabric. It is not exactly straight. This is the part that will be gathered, and the other part will be sewn into the length. Here I'm cutting out the body of the skirt area. So this is the front I'm starting with. I'm adding my necessary seam allowances, and I'm going over to cut. As for the back, I'll place my fabric unfold again into 2, add up my 1-inch zipper allowance, and then cut it out. After cutting, this is what I have. I'm going to be notching the hip line there. This would serve as where my gathers would start and stop. I have my front right here, and it is now time to begin sewing. Because I included a dart allowance on my pattern, the first thing I would need to sew is my darts. I'll be sewing in my darts on the front panel. I'll also sew in my darts on the back panel piece too. I have gone ahead to sew in my darts, as you can see. Also, I went ahead to sew down the hemming allowance. Because of the kind of style, it will be very easy to just turn the hem right now. I repeated likewise for the back too. I stitched my dart down, and I also went ahead to stitch the hemming allowance too. That is my zipper allowance right there that I left for the back, and I have the hemming allowance that I've gone ahead to stitch down too. Moving on, before working on the gathered area, I'm going to be joining the bodice to the skirt area. Because the focus of this tutorial is on the skirt area, I did not shoot this, and I don't want this video to be unnecessarily long. It is an asymmetrical bodice, so what I will do next is to just join the front bodice to the front skirt area. I would also be joining the back bodice to the respective back panels along the waistline. After joining, this is what I have. As you can see, I have the back right there, and I have the front right here. Next, I'll be joining the both sides together. After joining the sides, I would also be fixing my zipper along the center back. And once I'm done fixing my zipper, I will now work on the gathers area. After fixing the zipper and joining the sides, this is what my gown is looking like so far. It is now time to work on the gathers area. I've gone ahead to turn the hem of the fabric I'll be using for the gathers, just like I did for the body of this dress. Remember the midpoint we notched when we were cutting this out. I'll be matching that midpoint to the side seam. After that, I will locate the length, the end of this material. I will match it up to the end of my dress, the body of the dress. I will locate the other end of the material for the gathers, match it up to the end of the body of the dress. So when I want to sew this down, I will be starting with a straight stitch, and I'll be stopping my straight stitch where I have the notch for the gathers. So then I'll now be creating my gather stitch from that notch up until the other notch. I'll repeat likewise for the other side. Start with a straight stitch and then continue with a gather stitch from this notch up until where I have the other notch. This is how I am going to be sewing in my gathers area. So guys, I've gone ahead to sew the gathers area, and this is what I have. You can see how good looking it is looking. I also went ahead to fix a puff sleeve for this dress. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a huge thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, kindly click on the subscribe button below, turn on your notifications, and I would see you all in my next video.